Welcome back to Peachy's place. My name is Peachy and this is my place. Okay, so clutch plates. What do we need? First things first, we need some of these things. These are the actual plates that I got the first time round, and it turned out that what I actually needed was these things. Okay, that's what's worn. You can see the little pads on there around the circumference. God, I hate mopeds. They're just noisy. Meh. The little 50s are the ones that annoy me, not the big Bergmans or whatever. It's the little 50s that really irritate me. Anyways, so there you go. Okay, see those pads? Nice, brand new pads, and they've been soaking in oil for about 2 hours now. They recommend half an hour. You can leave it to soak overnight if you wish. In fairness, you're probably better off doing that, let them soak overnight, right? But half an hour is the absolute minimum that you need. Alright, got this thing, cat litter tray, very cheap to get hold of, very useful for doing an oil change, which I'm going to need to do because it's a wet clutch, and I've used that to soak my the plates in them, but I will be using this to drain the old oil. So you want to let the bike warm up for about 10 minutes, take it for a ride, whatever. In my case, I'm not going to be able to do that because the clutch plates have gotten so bad I can't ride the bike, it just won't engage the gear. So I'm going to leave it there for about 10 minutes, let it heat up. What this does is it gets all the oil, it heats the oil, it makes it more runny, if that makes any sense, and it allows you to drain it out much easier. Yeah, when the oil's cold, it'll go clotty, you might not get it all out, and it takes ages to run out. So by running it up to running temperature, makes the whole thing on the downside easier. Okay, so what we're looking for under the bike to drain the oil is this little nipple under here, this little bolt under here. Alright, on this particular bike, I imagine most bikes will be about the same. That's what you want. It's a 17mm ratchet bit. Get that up under there. Make sure it's... Try not to burn yourself as you take it off. And if you look at that, these things are usually magnetic. I'm not so sure about this one, but because it looks, I don't know, it's old, and I found a replacement bit on eBay for a £5, and I thought, since I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So I got a new one of these, and that'll be going back on. That'll be going back on the bike when I finish the job. Okay, all the final drips are dropping. The next thing we want to do as part of the oil change, we need to drain the oil to get into the clutch plate, so we're doing an oil change as well in this video. We need to get this off the radiator, because on this particular bike, as I've showed you before, that's it there, there. Yeah, you see, where's my finger gone? There, that little black round thing in there. That's the filter. How does that come off? One way, through there. So the radiator's got to come off to take the filter off. Okay, and it comes off via a bolt here, and one down here. Already undone the first two. They're all 10mm bolts. So I'm just taking the last one off now. It's coming slowly. I can see it moving just a little bit by bit. I've not got the biggest, strongest hands in the world, but you don't need them. And in fact, that is coming nicely. That is coming just like it should. There it is. There it is. Okay, move your tray to allow the oil to drip out from the filter straight into the tray. You don't want to be getting that all over the floor. With the oil drained out, the next thing that we want to do as part of the process of changing the clutch plates is to remove this casing. Now if we weren't changing the clutch plates, what we would do, if you were just doing the oil change, is simply replace the new filter and top it up with oil, right? But because I'm doing the clutch plates, I'm not going to do that just yet, and I'll show you in a bit. So 8mm ratchet bit, you want to get on these and just crack them loose and go around the casing, removing it in a crisscross fashion. One thing I forgot to do, was to remove the oil plug. You know, the bit where you actually pour the oil into the engine. Doing that, of course, the engine's a vacuum, so by releasing pressure on top, the air is going to allow the oil to flow out. Before I move on to this, one thing I am going to do is I've noticed I've got an awful lot of crud inside of my case. See these little brown spots? I'm not sure if that's rust on the inside. Yeah, it is. There's also bits of metal, bits of clutch plate, bits and pieces of God knows what else lying around in there. I'm just going to give it a wipe over with a rag. Try to keep it as clean as possible. Okay, so that's the plate off, and when you take it off, these are the bits you find inside. They're your pads, they're your plates, okay? And judging by the look of these, I have to get behind the camera, I'm not sure if you can see this. See these burn marks on the plates there? See them little black marks on them? And you probably can't see, there's a very distinct purplish sort of tint to them. Yeah, it's a good thing I'm changing those as well. I'm going to take all these things out. Take them all out. Using a fine screwdriver to get in behind to pull them out. You can use something like a small Allen key bit or something like that if you want to. Whatever works for you, really. You'll notice as I'm taking them out, you get one pad, one plate, one pad, one plate. So when you're putting it all back together again, you want to put it back in exactly the same sort of way. Pad, plate, pad, plate. Oh, look at the wear on that one. This one's, you can see where the pad's actually been grinding against this. Okay. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. I hope it does. But look at the wear on that. There's actually even the metal. It's flaking off and turning to putty. It actually flakes of metal. There's deep gouges on the plate itself. So I should have just done this right the first time. I should have just done it right the first time. I should have ordered the parts, waited. Unfortunately, I didn't have the cash at the time. I used what cash I did have. I ordered the wrong parts. It was my own fault. I ordered the wrong parts. But I just didn't have the cash to get it done. So, you know, this is it, isn't it? Yeah, you make do with what you've got. You know, you just do your best. Plod along, as they say. As I'm pulling this out, there's bits of metal, you can see it on my fingers, bits of metal in there. I've just turned to putty. That is what you don't want, ladies and gentlemen. That is exactly why you need to do this sort of job sooner rather than later. Because any bits of metal or shrapnel left behind in there is going to heat up, it's going to get chewed up, and it's going to make a mess of your engine. Never again. Never again. This is one thing, I've watched a few videos on how to do this. This is one thing I've never actually seen anyone do. They're changing the clutch plates, it's because your pads are worn. If they're worn, there's going to be debris inside your clutch. So why is it you never see anyone cleaning it out? It makes no sense to me. It might not be perfect, but you do the best you can. And the job's going to last you that much longer. That was sitting just behind where my clutch plates go. Okay, that's a sort of bit of crap, got a rubbery feel to it. I'm not sure what it is, but that sort of thing will get mashed up and goes into your oil, and that oil circulates around your engine, and that is how you end up bugging your engine up. It's worth just taking a few minutes to investigate, give it a good clean before you put it all back together. Speaking of which, that's exactly what I'm going to do now. It's worth noting, when you put these things back in, these bits, it doesn't really matter which way round they go. At the end of the day, you go in there, just like that. Okay, you go in there, followed by one of these things. Now these ones, it does matter. There's two sides to them. It won't be immediately obvious to you on camera just by looking at it. But if you feel the edge there, you feel that's very sharp. And on that side it's rounded, it's blunt. What you want is you want the sharp side facing towards you as you're putting it in. So that's the next one to go in. That's the next one to go in. Followed by another one of these. Followed by another one of these again. Again, making sure that the sharp edge is facing towards you. It's a very subtle difference, so you've really got to feel around the edges and make sure you get the right side. I've got the plates back in, the pressure plate is mounted, and I've got the nuts back in, the bolts. You nip these up in your crisscrossy fashion. This bit I definitely would recommend doing in a crisscross fashion. The plate I'm not too concerned about. This bit definitely, because you don't want to put more pressure on one side or the other. Okay, and unless you intend to count exactly how many turns on each nut, do it in a crisscross fashion. And what you do, one, bum, 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 until it seats, bum, 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 until it seats, bum, 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 so on and so forth, and then you just go round, give it a quarter of a turn, nipping them up just enough. You don't want to swing on the wrench or the ratchet or whatever you're using. You don't want to swing on it, okay, because you will bugger up your clutch. So nip them up just until they seat, and then go around them again and just give them a quarter turn on the ratchet. Okay, so that's the clutch reinstalled. I'm now going to replace the cover, and as soon as I've done that, I'll put the new filter back on. Okay, here's my new filter fresh out of the box. What you want to do, get your finger in that oil, give it a bit of a, yeah, just rub it around that rubber O-ring. That's going to help the rubber slip into place and form a perfect seal against the metal. So that screws back in. You don't need any tools whatsoever for this. If you have a bike where it's too tight, like I thought this one was going to be, it's because someone's done it up too tight. But as you saw earlier on, what I ended up doing was I undid it by hand with no problems. Now, because my hand is greasy and full of oil, I'm not getting the best grip on that to tighten it as tight as I want it. Now, I've seen this done with masking tape, sellotape, whatever kind of tape you want. But honestly, get a dry, clean rag, get that on there, and that is going to give you all the grip you need to properly turn it on. Now you're doing it hand tight. Hand tight means as far as it will go. It won't go any more than that. Okay? While you're under there, well, give it a good clean up, because later on we're going to come back and check for leaks once we put the oil in. To do that, before I do that, I first need to replace this, the drain plug, and then I can put the new oil in. So I'll be right back with you. Case is back on, the filter's back on, put the new bung in. You see it's a nice shiny new one. Clutch cable's been adjusted, although I'm going to have a bit of a play about with it because I'm not 100% happy. You see the oil level is sitting just slightly above the low line. Okay, it went up to the top line when I poured the oil in. I've got a big 4 litre drum. If you look on the side there, it'll actually tell you the capacity is 3.7 litres. So it went up to the top line, around the bike for about 5 minutes, and I went back down to that bottom line. So you want to make sure that you run the bike a bit when you pour the oil in, run the bike a bit, let it settle, and then just top it up. The only thing I've got to do now is reattach this, dispose of the oil in a legal and eco-friendly fashion. Okay. In my case, I've got someone close at hand who gets rid of oil on a daily basis, so that's going to come in very handy for me. That's it. The next video I do, there you go. Hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope you've learned something from it. Please comment, like, dislike, whatever. Yeah, subscribe. Thank you very much. Take care.